Hello, this is the Bible in Fewer Words. We are Carol and Steve Wells. This is episode 208, Ezekiel, chapters 38 to 48. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Carol.
38 to 48, that's 10.
11, actually. We're going to finish Ezekiel today.
Well,
So
that's great news.
the last of the major prophets.
Okay. I'm hoping that means more to our listeners than it means to me.
Well, you probably noticed that Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel are big books.
Oh.
Right? A lot of chapters.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so now we're going to have Daniel, and then about a dozen or so minor prophets. And they are all small books.
So is it because they have less to say?
I guess so.
Minor, major.
They're smaller. Some of them are quite small books, 1 or 2 pages.
No, that is really
So
small.
we'll be zipping and then on to the New Testament.
I can't believe we're almost through the Old
So
Testament.
yeah, we're getting kind of close.
You know, if you had asked me when I was a kid, you think you're going to read the Bible? I would say, no way.
Yeah, me
no
too.
way.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Yeah, we're doing it.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Chapter 38. The word of God came to me and said, parenthetically, I'm Ezekiel right now.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. Son of man, prophesy against Gog in the land of Magog, saying, I'm against you, Gog. I'll put hooks in your jaws and force your large army to attack Israel. Well, the only question I have is, who's Gog and what is the land of Magog?
Yeah, and nobody knows the answer to that. It sounds like Gog is the person and Magog is where he's living.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably a leader of a country. And people have been wondering about that forever.
Like it's been in the news lately?
Yeah, sometimes it's in the news because people think that it might be Russia. We'll see later that this attack is going to come from out of the north.
Okay.
Let's say it's Russia. So it used to be the Soviet Union, so people were saying that it had to do with Israel coming back, and, we were talking about that last time in the end of the world. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be this battle with Gog and Magog attacking Israel. God's going to force them to attack. And we'll see later how that works out.
All right.
But yeah, this is something that people still talk about today because they think that it has something to do with something that's going to happen now or soon in the future.
Uh-huh.
With the second coming of Jesus and the end of the world and all of that.
Verse 14. So, son of man, prophesy and say to Gog. This is what God says.
When you attack Israel from the north, my fury, jealousy, and wrath will be satisfied. And there'll be a great shaking.
Every fish in the sea, every beast and creeping thing, and every human on earth will shake at my presence. Every wall and mountain will fall down.
I'll summon everyone in the world to fight against Gog and against each other.
I'll send blood and pestilences with great hail, fire, and brimstone.
This way I'll make myself big and holy, and everyone will know that I'm God.
As if we didn't know.
Uh-huh.
All right, Chapter 39. God said, Son of man, prophesy against Gog, saying, This is what God says.
I'm against you, Gog. I'll feed you to the birds and beasts.
I'll set a fire on Magog.
I'll make my holy name known.
Israel will burn the weapons, and the fire will burn for 7 years.
And they'll kill and rob those who killed and robbed them.
Gog and his army will be buried in the valley of Hamon-Gog. Gog, Magog, and Hamon-Gog.
Yeah.
I got it straight now.
Uh-huh. It'll take Israel 7 months to bury all the dead people.
On that day, I'll be glorified.
If anyone sees a bone on the ground, it'll be buried in the valley of Hamon-Gog.
Say this to all the fowls and beasts.
This is God's sacrifice for you. Come and eat flesh and drink blood.
Eat the flesh of the mighty and drink the blood of princes.
Eat fat until you're full and drink blood until you're drunk. Of the sacrifice I've sacrificed for you. Get a full meal at my table.
I think it's a full meal deal.
Yeah.
From that day forward, everyone in Israel will know that I'm God.
The heathen will know that I hid my face from the Israelites because they disobeyed me. So I had them killed with the sword.
They were unclean, so I hid my face from them and did to them what they deserved.
But now I'll bring them out of captivity and be jealous for my holy name.
And they will know that I'm God. That whole chapter, Steve.
Yeah.
What is that about?
Okay, so God's going to, I think he's going to, I don't know.
I love it when you say that.
I don't know. Well, it's hard to say because Ezekiel is writing after the Babylonian captivity or during that time when Babylon is attacking or just after.
Yeah.
And so now he's talking about something in the future. There's going to be this big war. God's going to bring Gog from the land of Magog, and he's going to attack Israel. He's going to have all these other countries attack with him, and then he's going to turn everyone against them. There's going to be this big battle, and there's going to be all these dead people. And then everything's going to be good with Israel because God's forgiven him. And now I guess he's satisfied, right? He's satisfied.
For a time.
All the birds and beasts are drunk with blood and everything, and God's satisfied. But the question is, and this is a question that everyone has, when is all this going to happen? Is this something that he was thinking was going to happen soon, like right away, maybe to punish Babylon for attack? Did Ezekiel think this was going to happen soon? Or was it a prophecy about some time in the future and the end of the world, which is the way modern Christians view it today?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't think anybody knows.
No, I don't think so.
I feel like this whole story about the Babylonian captivity and Ezekiel's just beating this story to death.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really
and Jeremiah before him.
Yeah, that's really about all that historically, it did happen. Israel, Judah, was attacked by Babylon, and they destroyed the temple and carried a lot of them away captive. And then things changed after that. They ended up coming back. They went back to Jerusalem, rebuilt the temple, and then the Greeks attacked, and so they're subjugated again by the Greeks. And then the Romans come, and they destroy the temple, and, history goes on.
Yeah.
But how any of this fits into any of that, well, I don't think it does. I think it's just bizarre stuff that Ezekiel was saying.
Okay. Chapter 40. In the 20th year of our captivity, God's hand brought me to Israel and set me on a high mountain. And there was a man who looked like he was made of brass, with a line of flax and a measuring reed in his hand.
The measuring reed was 6 cubits long. The building was a reed tall and a reed wide.
He measured everything in and around the building with his reed. Chapter 41, 42, and 43, more measurements, even more measurements, and then the law of the house.
Yeah, so you can see here that there's a lot that I'm leaving out. These are kind of medium-sized chapters.
Mm-hmm. So the bronze man and his measuring stick, he's just going around.
Going around measuring stuff.
Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Apparently this is the measurement of the temple that's going to be built. And so people are still kind of thinking about this, and okay, so is there going to be enough room on the Temple Mount when we rebuild the temple according to the measurements in Ezekiel?
Yeah.
It's still stuff people think about, but it is boring. I mean, I challenge anyone to read those 3 chapters.
Okay.
41,
and come out
42,
saying,
and
Steve
43.
should have included those.
Yeah.
Okay, chapter 44. Well, then the brass man brought me back to the gate, which was shut.
God said to me, the gate will be shut. No one will open it because I went through it.
It's for the prince, who will sit and eat bread in front of me. He'll enter and leave through the porch gate.
God said to me, say this to the people of Israel.
You've brought people with uncircumcised hearts and flesh into my house to pollute it, offering me fat and blood. You've broken my covenant with all your abominations.
No stranger who has an uncircumcised heart may enter my sanctuary.
Okay, I'm not going to delve back into the uncircumcised body parts that God talks about.
Yeah.
verses 15 through 31, rules for priests. And I seem to remember rules for priests from previous episodes.
Yeah, it's like that. So I left that out.
Thank you. Chapter 45. God continues his instructions. When you divide the land, set aside a portion for me. My holy portion will be 25,000 by 10,000 reeds.
Yeah, so that's a pretty big hunk of land because...
Yeah, he's not downsizing.
Yeah. And then there are the few good rules. So now we have some good rules.
Verse 8. Don't oppress people. Avoid violence. Be just. Don't cheat.
No. Then we get into God's measuring system. It's not the metric system.
Okay. Darn it. And
I want to just read one thing in here. And the shekel shall be 20 gerah, 20 shekels, 5 and 20 shekels, 15 shekels shall be your manna. It's an ephah, and the bath shall be one measure, that the bath may contain the 10th part of an homer, and the ephah a 10th part of a homer. The measure thereof shall be after the homer. God really likes the homer. So that's kind of God's meter is the homer, I guess.
And when you were reading that, I'm just thinking, I could not read the Bible if it was like that.
It's like that in a lot of places.
Okay, and then, so chapter 45, verses 13 through 25 are more animal sacrifices, which we know about already.
Yeah, and then there's a whole chapter more on animal sacrifices after
chapter
that.
46, okay, and then chapter 47. I'm so happy the way this episode is rolling out, Steve.
Yeah.
Then the brass man brought me to the door of the house, where I saw water flowing under the door.
He measured the stream to be 1,000 cubits long, and he told me to wade through the water, which was ankle deep.
He measured the stream again, and again it was 1,000 cubits. This time, though, the water was up to my loins.
He measured it again, but the water was too deep to cross.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So all this water is going through a house?
Yeah, I think that it's like starting in the temple and it's going to go into the Dead Sea or something.
Okay.
Who knows?
They didn't plan the placement of that house very well.
Yeah.
He said to me, these waters go to the sea and will be healed. But the marshes will not be healed. They'll be salty.
And then we have some verses that tell us about how God's going to divide the land.
We've heard that before.
And then...
is this the land of Magog?
No. No, I think this is the land of Israel.
Uh-huh. He's already divided it, though. Is he going to give it to other people?
I don't know.
All right, and then chapter 48, it looks like God finishes dividing the land.
Yeah, it's the exciting ending to the book of Ezekiel.
So God is dividing.
So no one reads. I'll just read a little bit of this just for you. Now, this is chapter 48, the last chapter of Ezekiel.
Yes.
Now, these are the names of the tribes. From the north end to the coast of the way to Hethlon, as one goeth to Hamath, Hazarana, and the border of Damascus northward to the coast of Hamath. For these sides, east and west, a portion for Dan. Remember, Dan was one of the sons of Jacob? And by the border of Dan, from the east side to the west side, a portion for Asher. And it goes on like that, doing each of the tribes. It's telling about that.
You know what it reminds me of? Legal property descriptions for a plot of land in the olden days.
Yeah, I'll read the last 3 verses to Ezekiel.
Can't wait.
To give you an idea so this is all the way down to verse 33.
Okay.
And at the south side, 4,500 measures and 3 gates. 1 gate of Simeon, 1 gate of Issachar, and 1 gate of Zebulun. At the west side, 4,500 with their 3 gates. 1 gate for Gad, 1 gate of Asher, and 1 gate of Naphtali. It was around... It is the last verse of Ezekiel.
Okay,
what a way to
I'm
end.
ready. Yes.
Okay. It's probably never been quoted before. It was round about 18,000 measures, and the name of the city from that day shall be, the Lord is there. And that's the end of the book of Ezekiel.
The Lord is there.
The Lord
That's
is
the name
there.
of a city.
Yeah.
It's almost like this is the place.
Yeah, kind of.
All right,
So
we are done with Ezekiel.
Yeah.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, folks, thanks for sticking with us. And Steve, again, thanks for not putting us through all that awful language.
Yeah, and I really do encourage you to try to read some of these chapters. Try to read chapter 48, or some of the other ones that deal with the measurements that the brass man made. It's really tedious.
Okay. All right. Thanks again.
Sure.
See you next time, folks. Bye-bye.